So I wanted to share a little bit about my journey so far, being an astrologer and tarot reader, and just sort of what that's looked like as far as understanding my own like niche and just sort of how I deliver readings and what style I have. Because definitely in the beginning, I wasn't really sure. Like, I was really interested in learning all this stuff and I was really good at it, and it helped me understand myself in ways that so many other things never have. And especially astrology. Astrology is just a really cool tool for understanding your patterns, understanding what you're meant to do, understanding how you're meant to relate with people, just all this stuff. And tarot is just a really cool doorway into just building a better relationship with your own intuition and just the unseen things that we coexist with here in reality. So, yeah, I wanted to just share a little bit about that. So, when I first started doing tarot, I really didn't I just did it for myself. I was just pulling cards for myself, and I was like sometimes reading for friends, and I would always have them pull the card. And yeah, through just working with it, through doing more and more readings, I just started understanding the power of it and understanding like how much even a 5 minute tarot reading can like change somebody's perspective about what's possible in the world. And so my first experience with giving like public tarot readings was at this um it was a big pharma event that somebody invited me to last minute. They were doing like a healthcare, like a self-care fair, and they were trying to highlight like alternative health modalities. And someone invited me to do tarot readings there. So I did tarot before I did astrology. And it was just really cool. Like I didn't really know how to set it all up at this time. This is my first time ever like selling readings. And I was selling them 1, 3, or 5 cards. And people, even in just getting like one card, it was like you could see on their faces, like their mind would just open up, and they just like, they're like, how did you know that about me? And the thing is, I don't just like know shit about people. Like, I get, okay, so I know shit about people, but I get it like through an internal knowing that like arises when I work with the cards. But it's not like I'm just like tapping into everybody's shit and just like reading their minds or anything like that. And a lot of questions people, or a lot of a question I get a lot of the time is, are tarot readings like fortune telling? And it's like, I'm not predicting anybody's future. These are mirrors, these are tools into your own soul, and these are tools into things that you already know. And you probably already know that you know it, but you're just kind of not fully there. So these tools help reflect what we know back to us, and they mirror things back to us. And when you get a reading, you don't even necessarily have to like fully believe in what tarot is doing, because it speaks for itself. So the first one I did was at that self-care fair. And, you know, as people on their lunch break, it was like people who worked in that building were coming through and just learning about these different things from all the vendors that were set up there. And I didn't even have anything. I just had a little table that my friend let me borrow. And I just made a sign with like a colored pencil that morning before I went. And just the power of it, I was like drawing people in. I was in this little corner. Like, I didn't have anything flashy that was like tarot readings. Like, it was just me and my deck of cards, and I was just standing there. And it was just cool to see people sort of come to the table. I had all types of people across the board. Like, there were people who, you know, come to the table and they're like, what is this? This stuff's not real, whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, you came to my table, so that's fine. And then other people are very intrigued. And at one point I had a line of people like waiting to get tarot readings. And it was just really cool. It just taught me that like there is such a desire for this stuff. And I think sometimes people just need permission to investigate these things and to use them. And I am a pretty trustworthy human. People tend to feel that in me. And a lot of readers are. There are some that aren't, but a lot of readers are really trustworthy and they're really good people. And so when people are drawn to that, it just helps open the channel up and open the energy up, and more can be done. So that's like, 5-minute tarot readings that were happening. And I witnessed people crying in front of me, just breaking down crying on their lunch break because of what is showing up for them and what's being mirrored back at this time. And then the second tarot reading event that I did was a Halloween party that I was invited to do. And I was paid to do 2 hours. They ended up halfway through asking me to stay for a third hour. I did like 40 tarot readings back to back, similar style, but just I didn't limit the number of cards. By this time, I was reading differently, where I was just shuffling and then allowing the cards to just come out and then interpreting the message. And a lot of people will ask me too, like, do you read them? Okay, maybe I won't get into that, but people will ask, how do you read them and how do you interpret them? So there's many different ways, right? You can do the 1-3-5 pull. You can just have them come out. It's intuitive for me. I don't know what everybody does, but for me, it's very intuitive. And I've learned the cards, and the cards help guide the intuition, but there's really like a knowing that arises inside that just is like, say this. And I've learned to not hold that back. So yeah, this Halloween party, there was like tarot readings back to back to back to back to back. And it just taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of where I was, what my skill level was, what the desire was from people for this stuff. I had my first couple reading, like couple coming and asking me to read for the two of them together. And yeah, there was just a lot of people there that had never even seen a tarot card, never really known what this is all about. They were either skeptical or they just hadn't been exposed to it. There were people who were just like did not believe in it. Then they witnessed their friend get a reading, and then, okay, I'm going to get a reading too. Then they leave a tip afterwards. And it's like, so you can just see there's just so much power to this stuff. And it's just really cool to help, to use it to help people like understand themselves on a deeper level, and to just like sort of ease their way into facing themselves, and to maybe facing that there are a bunch of unseen things happening around us that we don't like to acknowledge. So that's kind of my experience with growing into being a tarot reader. And then with astrology, I really started those much later, and mostly was just reading for friends at first as well. And then I moved to Hawaii, and like a week after I moved there, I saw that there was a psychic fair going on, and I was not confident enough in my ability to read for the public quite yet. I was staying at this hostel, and word had gotten around that I was a reader. And so I had people coming up to me and asking for tarot readings. So I was like giving tarot readings when I got there, but I hadn't really done astrology readings, and they didn't need any additional tarot readers at the fair. So I didn't apply. And then 6 months later, they did it again. And by the time I went to apply, because I had done, a handful of new friends' astrology charts, and feeling more confident in that because I didn't know these people already. And then the second fair rolled around, and there were no spots for readers left. So I just applied to work the booth and sell like incense and tarot decks and whatever, just because I wanted to be a part of the fair. I wanted to like see what it was about, what it was like. And I just kind of observe. And I also just kind of wanted to be around the other readers, people doing other types of different healing modalities. And then the week of the fair, I got a call from the person who runs it, and she asked me if I wanted to give astrology readings because the other astrologer had backed out. So they had one astrologer already. She did a different type of readings than I do. different type of astrology completely than I do. And so, yeah, I said yes. And then she and I swapped readings and got a feel for that. And so, yeah, I think that first weekend I did maybe 8 to 10 readings all weekend. Like, it was not a ton, but it was like enough to kind of get my feet wet into giving readings, a couple back to back, and just feeling out how much I could actually, how much information I could deliver in a 15-minute time slot, because the fair was slotted for 15 minutes. So again, just like the tarot, these were really short lengths of time, but see very quickly like how impactful it can be on somebody. And so the first fair, I was just kind of getting some good feedback from the people that I was reading for. They were in agreement of the things that I was saying, and I was pretty nervous. I was like really new to it, and I didn't have a lot of like, I'm self-taught. So I don't have somebody who knows more than me to validate that I'm like correct on this. So I'm really learning through doing charts for people, just like what the level of knowledge I have is, and just testing that the tool itself for somebody besides myself, because the tool was so validating for me as a person, and for me to see myself in different ways. And so for me to see it working like that for other people was really cool. So doing the fair and giving readings was, yeah, just really cool to hear what people had to say about how it was making them feel, and just their expressions of gratitude for being introduced to this tool. So, and I say that to drive home like how powerful these tools really are, because they provide just so much. They provide so much clarity for us as humans. They're little like roadmaps. Astrology, especially, is a roadmap. And tarot is a little bit more nuanced and more broad, and yeah, you use intuition in both depending on how you give astrology readings. But yeah, so that was the first fair for me. And then when I did the second fair, I was the only astrologer there, and I did 24 readings that weekend. And then one person asked if I could do a tarot reading instead of astrology. So I did 25 readings, one tarot, 24 astrology readings. And it was really cool. I had a lot of really just awesome experiences. I had these two friends who came back to back, and just, I saw them later. Both of them were very like shocked about the level of mirroring that they received from the reading, and just seeing people sort of, their face softens and they break down with some tears. Like, this is, I feel so seen. Like, I feel like I had permission to be myself from this. And this is in 15 minutes. And it's never enough time. We have people at the fair who are going around and they're like, 2 minutes left. Like, you have another person on your schedule. So when 15 minutes is up, we have to, end it there. And you can just tell that there's so much more to be revealed if you keep going deeper. So it was really cool to have two friends back to back, because it's really nice to have that validation from people who do know each other. Like, yeah, that's totally you. And that's kind of even when I did the tarot readings, like I was at this party and there were like groups of people that would come down over the night. And like the first was a group of friends, like maybe 4 or 5 women. And they all asked, can we sit in for each other's readings together? Like, as long as that's okay with everybody else, that's okay with me. And just them being able to kind of hold that space for each other and validate that for each other when the readings are there. I've done it with just my own friends in small groups, and it is really cool to do in small gatherings, because the people generally know each other well, or in private parties. And it's a way to get to know each other more using these tools with each other. But yeah, so there was just different styles of groups of people that experienced the tarot readings together. And then the second psychic fair was similar, with the groups of people experiencing their astrology readings together. So there were those two friends that, just were able to leave that day just having a good conversation about what they had learned about themselves from this and their desire to want to go deeper. And then I had this woman come, and she was 88 years old. And she sat down at my table and she said, I haven't had an astrology reading in like 30 years. And I am ready for another one. And I just need to know what's next for me. I need to know what's out there. I feel like there's something really big that's next for me. So we looked at her chart, and sure enough, it was time for her to put out into the world the work that she's been doing the last several years. She started some new projects, and it's just time for that stuff to be broadcast out. And one of her kids was with her, and she has several kids, and she's like, my kids don't seem to want to hear this stuff that I have to say, but I know that it needs to go out. So we looked in her chart, and her chart is basically all sitting in her 11th house, which that's the house of your community that you're meant to serve. So there's tons of stuff that was hitting that. Like, yes, your feeling is correct. Like, this is mirroring back to you what you already know. This is saying in here that this is the time for these things to reach the audience that it's meant to reach, because it's not going to serve your children as much as it's going to serve these people, at least not at this time. So that's just how you can use astrology, and that's how it's a really cool tool. And yeah, it was just really fun to work with somebody who was that late in their life, because one, it just reminded me that there's just more. There's always stuff to be experienced at that age as well. And there's guidance to be needed from that age as well. So it was truly very humbling and just honoring to be able to sit down with people who are so much my elder, and just be able to help them find clarity in what is next for them in life. And the next person immediately after her was a 12-year-old boy with his mom and his aunt. And it was just, yeah, it's cool when you're doing a reading for somebody and somebody really close to them is there and they start laughing. So like when I was doing the reading for that 88-year-old woman, and I'm saying like, oh, you've probably been doing a lot of this recently, I see in your chart. The daughter starts laughing. Like, that's exactly what's been happening, right? It just validates people, but it's not telling you stuff that you don't already know about yourself. And so then after her is this 12-year-old boy, and his mom and his aunt are there. And his chart is a lot about just, transitioning into different friend groups and needing people who could validate his sensitivities. Because when you see a chart that belongs to a male in our society and it's full of water, the water element in their chart, you just know that person, anybody who has a lot of water in their chart, is a very sensitive person. They feel more than they're thinking. Everything gets passed through their whole body, and it's just not always received well, especially in a male body in this society and in this greater world in general, honestly, right now. And so it was just really cool, and he was really into it. Like, by the end of our 15 minutes together, he's like getting closer to my screen, and he's like, what else is in here? What else can you see? And it was because you could tell, like, he knew that it was time for him to get different friends for himself. He knew that these people weren't supposed to be with him forever. But that's tough, right? When you're a preteen and you're going into middle school, or you're in middle school and you're going to go into high school soon, and you don't want to shift friends and things like that. But having a tool like this, having a roadmap like this, guides somebody at that age to know, like, no, you're right on time for experiencing that. And his mom and his aunt are right there to back him and say, we've been telling you, buddy, like, these aren't the kids, these aren't the people, And so it's cool. I love sitting down at these events and seeing who's going to show up at my table, who is going to need a reading from me that day. And I travel, so I've done events in some different places now, and it's just really cool to see, like, who's going to be there, who is going to need guidance today. And it's never what I expect. I did not expect an 88-year-old woman and a 12-year-old boy to come one right after the other, and both need guidance from me about where they're at in life. So it's just that reminder, again, it doesn't matter where you are in life. you might need some guidance. And astrology especially is a great tool to help guide you. So very cool experience, very validating experience to have people just, let me know that my work is helping them and that it's giving them perspective and clarity. And it just helps me continue doing this work because I could study astrology forever and you'll never get to the bottom of it all because it's so deep. And tarot is a very, very great tool to tie into astrology. So that kind of brings me to my next phase of my journey with these tools. So after those couple of fairs, I did a one-on-one reading for somebody. And at this time, my offerings were just like 30, 60, 90-minute readings because I knew 15 minutes just wasn't enough, especially if I'm going to be hopping on a call with somebody or I'm going to be recording something. Like, it just 15 minutes just wasn't enough. That's fair. That's fair setting. And it's just hard to have a really like pure reading. But as you can see, a lot can happen in 15 minutes in astrology and a lot can happen in 5 minutes in tarot. But if you're really wanting some deep change and you're really in between some different things, or you're facing something that is just seems insurmountable in front of you, these tools are a really great way to find some guidance. So I did my first like one-on-one reading that wasn't in a fair setting, that wasn't like a friend, and it was an actual legitimate professional reading. And it was somebody I knew, but it was like this person was really just wanting some real guidance on what is coming next. So we ended up sitting down for almost 3.5 hours together. And part of that is because we do know each other. I've been doing, garden work for her. And so we, chatted a little bit more. But we sat down for 3 hours looking at her astrology chart and then did a tarot reading as well. And what I found is that doing a tarot reading after I've read somebody's astrology chart is so much more powerful because I have your chart in my space when I'm giving you the tarot reading, and it's just helping me reference things about you that we just learned together, or that you just validated for yourself and I just learned about you. And yeah, I think that seems to be a theme now, where when I sit down with somebody, we quickly realize we could do this for half a day. We could dissect these things together for half the day. It's a lot to digest. So I try to cut off the readings at 3 hours. And I thought there was going to be a train because there's been trains coming by, but it was just a little car on the train track, like a little thing. So yeah, I try to cut it off at 3 hours if we're doing multiple types of readings, because that's just typically tends to be when we're done absorbing information about ourselves and need to go integrate this stuff, or it's not really doing much past that. But what I've found is that when I go to work with people one-on-one, the first question they have is, should I get astrology or tarot? And can I get both? Like, can we do both of them together? And even some of the more recent fairs that I've done, I did a fair in Sacramento, California, and a fair up in Grass Valley, California. And they're both very different from the one I did on Hawaii, and different from each other. And yeah, I did have people who wanted, I offer like 15 or 30-minute readings at fairs generally. And I had a lot of people asking, can I do 15 minutes of tarot and 15 minutes of astrology? So I found very quickly that people are very interested in doing both of them together. And I think it's great because I think they're better together, and they can provide definitely a more well-rounded, just not a well-rounded answer, but a well-rounded picture of what the situation is. So yeah, and then I was road tripping, right place, right time, kind of learning how to follow my own chart, which involves a lot of traveling and a lot of like sort of working the grid, if you've ever heard of that term, being a grid worker, showing up in the right spaces. People need your help here. You're here. They need you, kind of thing. So I show up in the middle of the desert. I'm cat sitting. Somebody that I'm cat sitting for, her mother is in town, staying in a different part of the property. And I end up in a 3-hour reading with her doing astrology and tarot. So it was just kind of a good, again, humbling moment for me of just like understanding your own chart and learning how to use it to your own benefit. Because when you're showing up as your purest self, your truest self, your most authentic self, you're one, giving other people permission to do the same, but you're also setting yourself right up in the right place in the right time for you to meet the right people that you need to meet for it to benefit them as well. So, and that doesn't mean it's going to look like traveling and wandering around for everybody. I'm definitely the wanderer. So it's just a lot about being able to position yourself in the right spaces, in the right places, at the right times. Astrology is a lot about timing, and it's understanding what's going on. So yeah, it's just really cool. And it's really cool to hear back from my clients later and say, like, this thing got resolved. This thing went this way. I really appreciate that. And my goal as an astrologer and a tarot reader is to hand the baton back to you every time, right? So it's very much about these tools are going to mirror back to what you already know. And then you are going to take control of your own life and you are going to co-create with whatever other tools you use. So yeah, it was just a very cool experience to see. And at first, this person bought a 30-minute reading for me because I was only offering 30, 60, 90. People are unsure. The prices are not, they're not like pocket change because this stuff takes years to learn and it takes years to synthesize. And it's really deep and it's life-changing for people. So people are sometimes hesitant because they just really don't know what they're getting out of it. And 30 minutes in, I will tell people like, okay, we've hit the 30-minute mark. Like, do you want to keep going? And they're like, yeah, like we can't stop now. Like I have too many questions. This is too good. So, and then we end up in 3 hours together. They're like, well, can we pull out the cards? Like, let's get the cards. Let's do a tarot reading. And so it's been really fun. It's been really fun to see what my style is like. Full on the bottom of the deck. Love it. And it's been fun to just help so many people with these tools because I really believe that these tools are meant to be with us, especially astrology. Like, it's been removed from so many things for so many different reasons, and I'm not going to go down those conspiracy rabbit holes, but it has so much truth to it and has helped so many people, and I just love what I do. So yeah, I just wanted to really share my experience with that because I definitely was not always confident in it. I did not grow up around people that were supportive of these things, and the people who were supportive of it didn't quite understand it. They were just supportive of me and what I was doing, but they didn't really understand what any of this stuff was. So it's been really cool to, go find other people in the world who are doing these things, be able to collaborate with them and just see how this work shifts the life for so many people. So if you have any questions, shoot me a message. I want to start hopping on here more and just talking about my journey with all this stuff and what it's done for me. And I want to share more stories of people. And if you ever are interested, I would love to give examples of readings. So I would love to, be able to chop up little pieces of reading so people can really see how this stuff works for themselves. I also offer a course that's on my website. That's just a very beginner, like 45-minute class on how to start reading your own birth chart. I will be doing some more education on tarot and astrology that will be on there available. And then I offer readings as well. So currently I have available what I'm calling a surface skim because I redid my website and it's all very ocean mermaid theme, Pisces, of course. So the surface skim is really just a recording and I can look at your birth chart or a transit chart. The birth chart tells me about you when you were born and the personalities that you have, the energies that you have to work with. The transit chart tells me about what's going on right now, or we can look forward or back. It tells me about timing. So I have in the recording, I have time to look at one of those two things, and sometimes they will blend together, but it's generally about a 20 to 40 minute reading. It's just a recording, and that's it. I send it, and it's yours. And then we can do an undercurrent uncovering, which is where we go a little bit deeper. We look at all of the placements. We hop on a call together. It's one-on-one. You can ask as many questions as you want for up to 90 minutes. And we spend that time together just diving into your chart, and we can look at anything in there. We can look at specific questions. And we can just, we can dissect the more challenging pieces and the more depth and nuanced parts of the chart together. And you also get a recording with that reading. And then the deep dive is going to be where we combine all of them. You're getting your birth chart, your transit chart, and then you also get a tarot reading with this. And this, again, can take up to 2 to 3 hours. I've generally seen it take more like 3 hours. Depending on what combination of things you choose, it might only take about 2 hours. But that is the deep dive. And that is going to give you a lot more of like a feeling of like you're on the right track. So I work best with people who are kind of in between some big things. They're not really sure what step is next for them. They have a lot of potentially new opportunities showing up in their reality, or just new people showing up, and they're wanting to understand how to move forward next. And that's a lot of what I found I can work with. But again, I don't do fortune telling. I'm not here to tell your future, but we can look and see what energies will be at play. And then remembering that, you have free will, and everything is always up to you at the end. And so you can use the energies that are here with us, or you can not use them, but they are there. And my job is to show them to you. So if you have any questions, again, just shoot me a message. And I hope this was really helpful. And I hope that if you are doing something of your own where you're getting it started and you're just feeling a little like, I don't know what direction to take this, I don't know, just trust that one day you'll get to a point where you look back and you see all the little things that happened, and you're just like, okay, yeah, that felt really like it wasn't going anywhere. Nothing was happening. Nothing was moving. Nothing was really taking care of itself. But then I remember I'm only 100 astrology charts in. I've only read 100 astrology charts, and I've already read 100 astrology charts, and 24 of those were in one weekend. So just keep yourself open to opportunities, and knowing like where, there might be something for you to grow in, even if it doesn't look like where you want to be yet. And for anyone who isn't sure about these tools still, I'm happy to answer any questions about them that you have. Bye.